Man, I'm excited about this one today, Mo.
You are excited.
Yeah.
About this one today.
Well, this is a dude, you know what I mean, that I've rocked with for a very, very long time. You talk about intimate conversations, growth conversation, and that's really what we're gonna, tap into. And I think it's important, especially in our culture, right? A lot of times we don't communicate with one another as men. You know what I mean?
We don't effectively communicate with each other.
We don't share our feelings and what we're thinking or whatever. And this brother, man, I mean, since pretty much the day that I met him, we've just had those groundbreaking type conversations. And I promise you, every time that I've left those conversations, I've been more full. You know what I mean? And want to go out and attack the world, want to go out and be a better person, and that type of thing, man. So I'm hella excited to have this gentleman on the show.
Chris right here with Royal Realty Group, brokered by eXp Realty. Buying and selling a home can be a stressful process, but we are here to help you throughout the way. Feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms at Royal Realty Group TX. Now enjoy the show with Cuff and Mo.
I want to say welcome back, all visionaries, to the TheVisionLab podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Cuffey, alongside with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Mosley. The TheVisionLab is the official growth mindset for all visionaries worldwide. We're showing mad love to the cigar community. It's here in the lab where we uncover people's visions and dreams and how those dreams actually come into reality. It's all about tapping into and becoming the absolute best versions of ourselves. Yo, Mo, who do we have on the show today?
Cuff, today's guest is a native of Fort Worth or Arlington. I want to make sure
Fort Worth.
It's okay. I thought it was Funky Town. He's a native of Fort Worth, Texas. He is a fan of the show. He is a member of the group called Extended Play. Please welcome Chris Jordan to the TheVisionLab podcast.
Thank you, guys.
What up? What up? So, Pascal, right?
Yeah, so I went to Pascal for a couple years, and then freshman, sophomore year, I was actually in drumline when I did that. Came in as a marching snare. Pretty excited about that, but then switched to private school. So I went to Southwest Christian for like my junior, senior year, played football for the first time. And that was cool. So threw away the drumsticks and put on the helmet. So
now, were you running? Because you're a soccer player too, right?
Right.
So what positions did you play?
So I came in as first I thought I was going to be a wide receiver, and then I realized I'm too.
You got some feet on you, right?
Yeah. But I was a little scared though. So those drills where you have your back to the you got to turn. You got to trust the guy in front of you. He's like turn. So, and then I tried free safety, and I was like, you know what? I don't have that killer instinct, like to just, But then I ended up being a running back and kicker.
Okay.
So, kicking. One of my good friends on my team, my soccer team, he actually kicked for Alito at that time, and he ended up going to kick for Tulsa. But he showed me how to kick, and that was how I made it.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, and your first love, because you talked about being in the drum line and playing snare. Your first love is music.
Yeah, it was.
Right? So I want to get into that. Let's talk about the language of music, right? And I don't mean like music notes on a note sheet, right? I don't know if that's what they call it, because I'm so not musically inclined, right?
That's not my realm either. You're on your own on that one.
But music is a language.
Music is a language. It is.
And I'm gonna pour you up something from our sponsor, Sagamore Spirit.
Shout out to Tim and everybody at Sagamore.
Awesome. So music was absolutely my first love. I started when I was probably I want to say 6 years old. My parents always had a piano. It was one of those upright pianos, real ivory keys. So I would cut my hand on it sometimes if I hit the wrong side of the note, wrong side of the key. But we always had a piano. But I took drum lessons starting off when I was little. Used to play at church. Went to a Pentecostal church. If y'all went to those,
I've been to a Pentecostal church before.
Shouting and everything, and I mean everything's just doom ta doom ta doom ta doom ta. Never forget this one time, the drummer wasn't there, and so my brother took drum lessons as well, and so he would go up and play, and if he didn't go up and play, I would go up and play. And one time I went up there and I was dragging the music so bad. I never forget this. The organist is like looking at me like, let's go, and I was bringing the congregation down, but anyways, but yeah, so the language of music, there's a lot of lines of communication when you listen to music, right? It's if you're creating it, it's what you're saying to the music and what's saying to you, and then to listeners, it's what you're hearing from the music, what it's telling you. And so but really just like I think one of the big things is I get asked all the time, like hey, I get told all the time, like, hey, I've got a kid that I want to teach piano, for piano lessons. Like, what do you think? What should I do? What should I do? I say, first off, just give them access. Just give them piano. Let them fall in love with it. Let them build that organic relationship. And then I said, then step in. If you see it's going somewhere and they need a little help, then step somewhere. But that's kind of how it happened for me, and I think it worked pretty well.
Well, and the reason why I wanted to start with music, obviously it's your first love, and we're talking about communicating, right? I kind of started the show off with the conversations that we had. This is a podcast, you got three young black men just chopping it up, right? And when you're talking about communication, as we get ready to turn the calendar to another year, I think one of the things we don't really talk a lot about is the power of effective communication, right? I think that's one of the things that I don't want to say it's a goal, but I'm definitely going to be a lot more intentional about effectively communicating or watching my words and watching the things that I'm putting into my head or allowing my eyes to see. You know what I'm saying? So I just love that spirit of you're stroking the ivory keys and you're communicating. You know what I mean? So you get up in front of thousands of people now, right?
Right.
And I love your story. So let's talk a little bit about extended play.
For sure. And one thing I just want to say something about your communication is, I could say that our conversations, Ryan, have been very, very powerful for me.
I appreciate
and
that.
You've always been intentional. You're someone that has never told me what I wanted to hear, but something I needed to hear. I think one of the most powerful conversations that I don't even know if you remember we talked about the difference between a season of harvest and a season of planting.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
It's
biblical, right? Seed, time, harvest.
So one of the key things is in as far as navigating is that conversation sparked a new level of awareness for me. And so like knowing like where I'm at, what season am I in, and knowing it's okay, knowing when I'm sowing and versus when I'm harvesting, and just kind of knowing. And so like literally ever since that conversation, it's been a few years now, but I'm just like, okay, this is the year of harvest. This is what Cuffy told me. Yeah. This is happening. So it's really important that we communicate and with each other, but we also like speak truth to it, and because you never know what how much those words can mean to somebody, but. So yeah, that's helped me as far as navigating extended play. It's a band that started back at when I was at Multiview, and originally it was New Kicks, and then
golly, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was originally New Kicks, and yeah, it was. I mean, it evolved. It started off. I originally wasn't even planning to lead a band. It just happened organically. Like we had it's like playing music with your coworkers, and all of a sudden nobody stepped up, and I did music my entire life, and it's like, well, let me just take a little bit of control, get some direction, and then next we go a year in New Kicks. I've put a lot into it, end up rebranding, and then and just every year just never stop learning something, and now we're at a point to where
You're wanted.
We're wanted.
Yeah, a lot of people are,
That's awesome.
are seeking your services. I mean, and what, okay, so New Kicks, right? Like, you didn't set out to be like to have a band, right, and to
No.
lead other people, and like that was never your goal. Like, but one of the things I love about you, Chris, is that like I've seen you grow this from essentially nothing, right?
Yeah.
3-4 people in the band get together, let's bullshit around, play some strings, play some keys, hit the snare or whatever, and then it's just grown and grown. But we use that word intentional, right? Intentionality. I mean, you put a lot of effort and energy. Mo loves to ask the question like, when did you know it was going to work? But I'm going to rephrase it and ask, what made you decide to put more into it?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's I'm gonna say this, and I know that everyone that's been on your podcast as entrepreneur is probably describes this moment differently. It's the same moment. We just have different words for it. The moment where you want to quit, and that voice says, just another day, just keep it going, just a little bit more. It was. I think it was. I would say that like probably. Gosh, I want to say it was probably 2018. I want to be honest with you.
Oh wow!
2000.
So y'all were doing this for 3-4, almost 5 years at that point.
Yeah. 2018 was when I was like, okay, like just because at this time I'm looking for like signs that, hey, it's worth it, because I'm putting in more than I'm getting out, and you're just like, okay. And so at that time, that's when our desirability started to go up. That's when like I remember I was the pianist for the Adolphus, the French Room, that year. Yeah. And we got into Sherlock's in Addison. That was a place I always wanted to play in, and we called those A rooms, right? And we finally got in there, and then they want us more and more and more. The first show I did with the full band, corporate called and it's like, hey, can you come down to Houston and do that same show for us? The next weekend. And so that's when I was like, and then I would say it's the team around me. I've had the same guys for years that have been playing with me.
I want to mention, I want to go back to that point where you feel like you got to give up, right? Because obviously we've had a number of entrepreneurs, and we're not like a business or entrepreneur show. We're about growth mindset. And if you really listen and you tap into it, like you understand that whether you are a W-2 employee, 1099 or self-employed, whatever it is, like there's just that moment of, I got to do this because X, Y, and Z, or my why, right? Can you kind of talk about that sticking point? Like you just kind of mentioned, hey, I'm not really making any money. I'm not seeing the return, but what made you want to continue to go forward?
Man, I'll describe the actual moment because I can see it as clear as day. I'll never forget. It was at the time where the band, there was just a little bit of miscommunication and all that, and I'm putting everything in. I'm not really talking about it as much because I'm like, hey guys, like I'm paying everyone X amount no matter what. I take a loss, I take a loss. It is what it is. If there's a win where I can make some money back, I'll do it. But there's confusion at the time where it's just like, hey, everyone's like, hey, how much should we be making? Should we be making more? Things like that. And we had books on the calendar. And I was like, all in. I was like, y'all don't understand. Like, I bought these mics. I got the speakers. I got all this stuff for something. Like, this is all in. Is like, and you're asking about getting more. And so I'll never forget. We had gigs on the calendar, and I was standing there in my apartment, and I was about to go to sleep, and in a moment, kind of just wanted to cry. We were just like I it's not worth it. I don't want to do it anymore. Like I can just go and play for people and not invest anymore, because it's like at that moment, and then we're all new to it, right? We're all new to it. I'm going solely by instinct. And so
it's not a roadmap or a blueprint for this.
No, not a roadmap blueprint. Like I am just going by instinct. I'm just like, hey, like, and I was thinking like, it's maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's not worth it. And I'll never forget just literally just saying, well, let me just give it a little bit more. Let me just give it a little bit more. And that was in 2017. That moment came in 2017. I was like, let me just push it a little bit more. And things just started to, I mean, I'm a believer, so God just kind of like showed up and
Showed out.
He showed out and just kind of gave me peace, you know. But I will say throughout the journey, I've had some awesome mentors, where, you know, I've learned what they do well. I've learned what I didn't think they do well, and I kind of figure out what works best for me. And I think probably one of the biggest testaments is just, I mean, I've had the same people for years. I take care of them. I do whatever I can to. I don't call myself a band owner. If you notice, like on my social media, it's band manager, because like I want them to feel a part of it, and they are, because they make it. I can't do it without them. Mm-hmm. So, but just trying to progress and navigate and create a. Just figure out what's going to work best for me, you know?
So I'm curious as to, like you said, you're looking up and like, okay, I spent this money on equipment. Like I'm literally like, I'm physically in it, right?
Yeah.
How did you reconcile that with yourself when people are asking you for more money or gigs? Like you said, like you get to a point where it's like, okay, I kind of want to quit, but like, I'm very interested to hear like how you reconcile that internally. Like, okay, I've actually put my hard-earned money into this. People are asking me for more money. You know, we're starting to get a little bit of buzz. Like you said, you kind of reach that point where it's like, okay, are you going to push through or just, you know, throw your hands up? Like internally, like how did you reconcile that? Like there had to be some type of mechanism where you were like, all right, I'm going to push through this despite it hurting right now. Like at that point, like you're in it from a monetary standpoint.
That's a really good question. I would say that, you know, the thing is, I think what I did was I asked myself, I said, you know, what could I do better? Because the pressure was coming from outside. And so what I realized that, you know, I put it on me. I was like, I need to communicate better.
What was it coming from outside, or was it coming from like internally? Like you desired more, and you know you can get more.
I desired more, but what the mistake I made was too much assumption, you know, and I should have communicated with everyone like, hey, this is the direction, you know, I'm going, I'm doing this, and really kind of gave them the right expectation, because that's really what I found out, and really it took me listening to them, just kind of figure out like, okay, you know, it was just like, okay, hey, you know. Because at this point, and this to be transparent, like I was putting money in the band, but there was no real clarity that like, hey, I'm running the band, I'm on the band. It's just like, hey, you know, Chris is doing all this stuff. No one saw
his coattails.
Yeah. No one saw the paychecks or the things like that, and so there's like, hey, you know, so and no one knew how it's supposed to work either. So,
you know, somebody that has figured out how to make it work.
Come on now.
That constantly supports us is Edwina Brown over at Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge. Hey, visionaries, check this clip out.
Hey everyone, Edwina Brown here, owner operator of Blowing Smoke Cigar Lounge. We're located at 1604 North Interstate 35E in Lancaster, Texas. We would love for you to come see us. We stand on the 3 C's, which are cigars, our community, and our culture. Cigars, we have over 300 SKUs in our humidor, and it's still growing. Come check it out, a massive humidor. We also love our culture here, which we're about customer service, as well as community, which is why we're excited to partner with the VisionLab podcast. So come check us out.
All right, visionaries, make sure you guys, if you're in the southern part of the Metroplex, make sure you guys go out and support EB. And we cannot, go forward without saying a big shout out to the OG himself, Jeff Davis over at Astute Gentleman Bar and Cigar Lounge.
Oh, shout out to OG for letting us come in and work. Hey, Carrollton Farmers Branch, Addison, the surrounding area. Make sure you get to the Astute Gentleman Bar and Cigar Lounge. I know we're going to pivot, if you will, if I can.
Come on with it.
This is a growth mindset show. and obviously you're a fan of the show, and we appreciate you
Yes,
actually
thank you. Big ups
being
to
down
you.
for the show.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
When we talk about, or when I mention the term growth mindset, right? Like, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Resilience.
Why?
Because that's how you grow. It's like building muscle. Is if everything goes great, everything goes well all the time, how do you know you're getting stronger? Like you just, I mean, you don't know your strength, and you also don't know your weaknesses either. So I think that definitely resilience, just powering through.
Have you always had a growth mindset?
Yeah, I have. It's just been altered and enhanced over time. I would say that years ago, I fell victim to, you had Stewman on the show the other day, and
shout out to Stewie.
Yeah, so one of the things that he talked about that was huge, because I fell victim for this. I think for years, I fell victim of this, and I didn't realize it until I had to push through, and you're a part of it. Was and I'll say this: he was talking about being above average.
The force of average.
The force of average. The force of average is so strong. Yeah. Like, and I can tell you specifically. I'll never forget. I read this thing one time, and it said, if you make $75,000 a year, making more doesn't change anyway how you feel.
Right.
The most average thing you could ever hear. And I remember at that time I was making that in a year, and I bought into it. I was like, well, why make 100 when I'm not going to feel the same? And it was such a impressionable time in my 20s to hear that.
Yeah.
And to shape that paradigm. And so, like, breaking through that, and really realizing, and this is something I learned from you, was, when you started working at The View, is one thing that you had above everybody was you outworked everybody.
Yeah. That was my anchor, right? Yeah. Like, that was my mantra, is that, I may not be the smartest, I may not be the best or whatever, but I really hinged on, you're not going to outwork me. I mean, there were times where I would get up I would be at the office, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would work till 7:30 at night.
That is a true statement.
It's very true.
That is a true statement. I remember when we first got this started, be like, dog, I'm going home. Be like, what are you doing back in the office? We're done.
No, we got to work.
7:30 at night, bro. Like, they cleaned the building already.
Yeah, and what people have to understand, just similar to, like, extended play and everything else in life, and people have heard this, but, like, just to bring it into, like, a real life situation, like, at the time I was coming off of a divorce. My daughter had to, like, I didn't have anywhere for her to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I lived at my grandparents' house, and it was cool, but they had passed away, so, like, the house was effectively mine. It wasn't mine, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I lived there or whatever, but I didn't have a place of my own. And as a man, like, in your late 20s, early 30s, like, that's embarrassing. I felt, and my goal was to have a bedroom for her that she can call her own, so she didn't have to sleep in the bed with me, right? And then all I knew is that just work hard. I mean, we all kind of have, sports or athletic backgrounds, and so the least, like, that I could do is work hard. And then I figured out, well, listen, if you're gonna go home at 5 or 4:30, whenever the job is done, I can work another 2 or 3 hours. And I can gain a couple extra days, right? I can perfect my pitch, and it's all about condensing that time frame. Yeah, it's like when you start something out, right?
Right.
You're not going to be good at it. As same way, like with the podcast, right? Or playing piano or keyboard. Like, your day one can't even compare to where you are right now.
Yeah.
Day 3,500 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, if I can shorten that gap by way of working extra, working harder, talking to people, communicating, right? Then I can be better faster, right? And that was really, really the mentality. And then, they say that favor fortune's the bold, right? And that's what happened to me. I was lucky enough to get a couple monster accounts or grow those accounts into monster accounts, and
Fortune favors the bold.
yeah, that's what I say. Favor.
Yeah, you had the other way, but I understand your saying.
We
Yeah.
got you. But
Yeah. So I mean, I work my ass off, and I think that's what people need to do. Like, you have a vision, you have a something that you love or something that you want to do. Like Mo always talks about, man, go 10 toes down, burn the bridge.
Oh,
Burn the bridge.
I'm a walking testimony of it every day. Burn the bridge. Like, we had a meeting with that guy, almost like 3 years ago now. And what did he tell us in the meeting? He's like, I like what y'all doing. He said, but the universe is about to test you guys to see to see if you guys are really about what you say you're about.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people will see that resistance,
Yep.
right, and say, this isn't for me. And going back to what you're talking about with Stu, that force of average, it's very important to surround yourself with like-minded people.
absolutely.
And when we had our conversations, I like I said at the beginning of the show, like I left those conversations inspired, motivated, driven, wanting to be better, right? But equally to that, you could be around a bunch of turds, right? That are just talking shit about the conditions, talking shit about the environment, talking shit about why they're not where they want to be, so on and so forth. And that can pull you down too, and you start to succumb to that. So we got to be very, very careful. And I want to be very intentional in 2023, right, on who I'm communicating to, how I'm communicating to myself, right? I think that's the big thing for all visionaries that are out there, right? Like, understand what you're allowing your eyes to see and your ears to hear, because shortly following that will be your mouth. And if you start to speak that, we all know that you can speak things into existence.
Absolutely.
So, we had some phenomenal conversations, just you and I having a drink after work or whatever. So I appreciate the shout out and the love, man. But I didn't have anywhere else to go, man. I just had to work.
You brought up a couple points. I kind of summed it up to everything's just a process, right? And just being aware of where you are in the process of yourself and your mindset and growing, and just realize the goal is progress. Tony Robbins says itself, success is progress. It's just it's not a destination. It's progressing. That's how you're gonna feel successful. If you're getting better and better and better. And one of the things that that as far as running extended play is knowing it was a process for me to become a leader, for me to learn leadership skills, a process for me to learn to communicate, having tough conversations, having great conversations. I've learned a lot from people. I've learned a lot from just and a lot from just working with other bands and whatnot. A huge thing is energy.
Yeah.
When
Big ups on that, for real.
When I show up in a gig, it doesn't matter who I'm playing with, my band or anything like that. You're gonna expect some energy from me, because I've realized how powerful it was to feel that from someone else. I was like, oh, I can take this. This is a good tool to use, but then two, the more I've matured, is I've realized energy works for everything. You can't move anything without energy. You can't move without energy.
That's right.
And so
energy you cannot create nor destroy.
Exactly.
But it can be transferred.
Exactly. And so, I think a lot of the reasons why, sometimes we, people don't realize some things they wish or want to happen is never going to happen because they just don't put energy behind it. You want your relationships to be better, put energy behind it. You want your job to be better, put energy behind it. You want to be stronger, put energy behind it. Anything you want to accomplish, you have to intentionally put energy behind it, and it'll change. And so, with my band, that's probably the biggest thing for me that single-handedly I think changed the culture of my band is me finding that, hey, I've got to put energy in this thing. Is no matter how, what happens, if things are it's a bad show or something breaks or something goes on, is that you got to bring this positive energy and be that source. And I've realized as a leader is, that's the greatest superpower you can have. If you don't have all the answers, but you have energy to find answers, whatever it is, people will latch on to that. People will hold on to that, and people will follow you on that. And so that's kind of what I would say as far as really that pushes you through the process is just really putting energy behind it and saying, hey, I want to get good at this thing. I want to be better at this thing. I'm never going to stop learning. There's always someone to learn from. And kind of the purpose of, the podcast is like being your best self. Is your best self gets better and better and better. I was my best self yesterday, but I'm going to be a better self today. And what can I do every day? So
I agree, man.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Let me turn the coin to the other side, though.
Sure.
The days where you're not your best self, right? And we all are very we're big believers in having a growth mindset and pushing the ball forward, right?
But there's also reality.
Yeah, but there's reality, and there's like, hey, okay, I tried to hit a home run today and I struck out. Right?
Every time I got to the plate. Yeah.
So who do you lean on when unfortunately you have that day where it's a dip or a bump in the road? Like who do you go to, right? Because you're kind of front and center of the band. So like when you've got to bounce something off of somebody, when you're like, man, like this did not go the way I wanted it to, like who do you go to? Like if you have somebody I don't call it a sounding board, but for lack of a better term, what's your outlet, if you will? That's
a really good question. So my outlet, I got a great friend named Carlos, who I talk to regularly. I can bounce things off. He's much older. He's been around for a long time. Anything that I have that's like, if I'm faced with something that I just need a different perspective on, I can call him. Another thing too is my pattern for showing up every day is I have this because I don't have a family and kids. I have time to do all this stuff, but
hating right here.
But like, so one of the books, one of my favorite books I just read for the second time is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. And the 7th habit, really just having that sacred time where you can invest in yourself. And I told everyone this is, we're in a lot of situations, we're looking for power. We're looking for, power and control and things like that. And it's usually things outside of us, right? And really, sometimes we don't realize we're not doing anything to create our own power for ourselves. And so for me is to be able to show up every day so I can absorb the impact of reality, those negative realities is, taking care of my health, working out. It is, it's being in the Word, my spiritual walk. It is take care of mental health, weekly visit with a therapist, a lot of things that I have an infrastructure that helps me navigate so I can show up as my best self. So, and that's part of my sounding board too, is so when, and then having the ability, when I'm not on, I can turn it off. So, but really and truly just have an infrastructure of where, I can, I have a, infrastructure of myself where it's what holds me together, and it has nothing to do with anybody else but me.
I think that is that's something that I will be implementing intentionally in 2023, making sure that I am pouring into myself, so that I can be the best version of me, for others, if that makes sense. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like there's a number of people that count on me. Obviously my family, but beyond that, right? For me to be there for them. And I think that's huge, man. So like as we get ready to go into January, man, I think this is a great time to, we talked about this several years ago. There was a Steve Harvey did this
the 350 thing,
300 yeah. So
whatever that number was, there's a big number.
So here's the deal, visionaries. Knocking on the door 2023, and I hope you guys are enjoying this episode thus far, right? We're just chopping it up with Chris Jordan of Extended Play. But Steve Harvey talked about this 300 goal challenge, right? Like it could be anything, as outlandish and crazy as you want it to be. I want to be the president of the United States next year, or, the next election cycle or whatever. Like, just put it down and start working toward accomplishing those goals. And I think for me, I started this year in November, and I'm just doing 10 per week so I can get to my 300 because I don't want to wait till the last minute to do that. But what that allows me to do is look at those goals throughout the next 12 months, right? And set my intentions, right? To pour into myself. You talked about mental health is important to you, right?
Absolutely.
This is the first year I actually went to counseling, you know, just to talk and to kind of get some clarity. I've had people that are like coaches. Shout out to Cameron Thompson that I talked to and
Yeah,
bounced
she's
ideas.
awesome.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Shout
You
out
know,
to Cam.
yeah, we had
Yeah,
her on
Cam.
the show, so make sure y'all check her episode out. It's in the archives, but it is so vitally important to talk and to get things off of your chest. It's vitally important for you to set goals and understand what your standard of living is, right? Like your standard is different from mine, and mine is different from Mo. But what is your standard? Like, what is the Chris Jordan standard?
So you Chris Jordan's standard is a moving goalpost. Well, there's just the standard. The standard is I would say the standard where I don't fall back. If I fall below, real quick, this is Tony Robbins has this podcast about identity. And it's really, really good. And one thing he talks about is the key to awareness is understanding like where you are. So, and he used a great example of using degrees or temperature, right? Let's say you guys, let's say I operate at 70 degrees. Okay, that's my
Like,
standard.
that's your optimal level.
That's my 70 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah,
Baseline.
that's me. That's normal.
optimal.
That's
Oh, okay.
yeah. And let's say life happens, right? Things happen, and you get knocked down to 65 degrees. There's two types of people. There's people who will accept this new identity of, hey, I'm going to be at 65 degrees. And there's people who say, no, I belong at 70.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And so really just having that mindset to push through. And I say that leading into 2023 goals you were talking about. Like, and that's really just making sure pushing outside the comfort zone. That's why I say kind of moving the goalposts is like, I'm trying to raise my standard.
Yeah.
You know,
You're raising the bar,
Yeah.
because you've gotten better, because you want to be a better version of yourself from day two to from day one to day two, day 3 to day 2, you know, so on and so forth. Right? Did I say that right?
yeah.
1 to 2, 2 to 3. You said 3 to 2.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys this. So a year ago, 2021, you know, I just started investing next big investment to my sound rig for my band, and it's a lot of money. But I was like, I want to sound our best possible every time some people hear us. And then I was like, I started shadowing sound guys because I was like, I need to learn this stuff. I want to learn how to use what I got. And I think it's building myself as far as building value, pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Like even nights off, just saying, hey, who you running sound? I'm working with the best. Got sound down to a good degree. And then a good friend of mine in the industry said, hey man, your sound's great. You need to work on your lighting. You know, what'd I do? Invested a lot of money. Like, actually just bought a couple more lights before the show, but invested a lighting rig. Sat with my friend Chris. He does the lighting for one of the Emerald City bands, Downtown Fever. Amazing guy. And I sat with him, he learned everything from him. Still talk to him every day. Built out an awesome lighting show. And so that was me putting myself outside of my comfort zone. And then lastly, this next year is I'm pushing myself, getting vocal lessons because I do harmonies, but I want to be able to lead.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
You out here humming tunes, huh?
Yeah,
Are you gonna be singing now?
Yeah. I'm pushing. I'm pushing outside my comfort zone because there's so much opportunity, and it's not even being able to. It's not even just performing it all. It's the fact that like,
You're leveling up.
yeah, just leveling up.
Well, first of all, I want to anchor right there. There's so much opportunity. When I hear somebody say that to me, they understand what growth mindset is about. Like, it is not about like what's happened before or what's happening right now. It is greater beyond this particular point. So I want to give you a big shout out for that.
Thanks. Yeah.
There's so much opportunity. I don't care what it is. There's still opportunity, because if you're willing to do the things that we talked about in this podcast, invest in yourself, have communicate with the right people, surround yourself with the right people, have the positive attitude, have the right energy around you, and you pour into that, I think that no matter what X happens to be, you're going to be successful.
And I think too, listen to him talk, right? And it's a bigger reflection of just what we try to give our listeners on this show from week to week too. Like, visionaries, if you're listening, like, no matter what your pursuit is, whether it's I'm gonna start vocals, or I'm gonna play drums, or I want to be a doctor, I want to be a salesperson, I want to real estate, I want to build houses, I want to pave roads, I want to cut hair, whatever the hell it is, like, you've got to have some type of internal mechanism that makes you put 1 foot forward. You got to start somewhere, right? Like, people talk about, starting things off on second base or whatnot. Everyone's going to start at different points. Like, that's just the way the game is set up, right? Like,
I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. I heard this earlier today. People want life to be equal. It's never equal.
No,
it's never equal.
Game one set up that way.
Be happy if it's fair.
Right. That is a true statement.
True.
But
Facts.
Like, to finish the point, like, just be willing to take a step forward, and then the next day take another step forward. Like, whatever it is you think you think you want to get to, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you will never get there if you're not willing to take at least 1 or 2 steps forward. And you'd be surprised. You look up and you take 10 or 20 steps forward, the universe might start to meet you like halfway. Like, we can tell you from all our own personal experiences, like, we're not quote unquote experts in whatever it is that we do, but every one of us is willing to put in the work. And you'd be surprised that when you're legitimately like putting in the work, you will encounter those along your journey who will recognize that you are willing to put in the work, and you will get the help that you need. You will get answers that you seek, but it's never going to happen if you're not willing to put in some type of sweat equity. That's just the way the game's set up.
So I want to pivot before we land the plane.
Okay.
We've talked about, this being one of the last episodes of 2022. I got 2 questions for you, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not landing the plane just yet. But
you got it.
What are you most grateful for in 2022?
The journey, the process. It was a pretty rough year, tough year. I lost my dog he had him for over 14 years. So
damn, I'm sorry.
I was tested a lot, but I'm really grateful for the people in my life. Have a awesome therapist named Norma. She's amazing, and just grateful for the experiences. And wasn't as a lot of it was getting to a point to where, like, for 2/3 of the year is an emotional roller coaster, but just knowing, just not giving up, and grateful for that God gave me, things and put things in my life back in April that I didn't know I'd need in November, things like that you're just there, and just really grateful for the entire journey this year.
First of all, on behalf of the Vision Lab podcast, we extend our condolences on the loss of your beloved dog. I know that's tough. They're man's best friend for a reason. As we turn the calendar, what are you most excited for 2023?
Gosh, I'm really excited because one of the things that I'm working to do, and I know everyone who's watching this podcast probably knows this term, is to work smarter and not harder, to stop trading dollars for time, and to really just think outside the box and really push outside my comfort zone, because I feel like that's the next step. And I'm excited about the opportunities that are going to come with that, the lessons I'm going to learn, and that's, I've got a calendar full of shows, but I'm mostly excited about who I'm going to be next year from what the decisions I make.
I love it. P, I think it's that time.
It is.
So we've already gotten started a little bit.
Hey, we are getting ready to land the plane. Shout out to the good folks at Sagamore Spirits, Tim, Kevin Plank, everybody out in Maryland who's a part of the partnership. Visionaries, we don't have anything on the show unless we stand by it. Get to your favorite goody, Twin Liquor, Specs, whatever liquor stores in your area and ask them for a bottle of Sagamore Spirit. We promise you will not be disappointed.
What up, Tim?
There are a few hard truths to whiskey that most brands don't like to admit. First, there's a lot of it. And second, despite its lore and romance, whiskey is often complex and intimidating. Is that high or low proof? Toasted or charred? Aged or finished? Straight or blended? Imported or American? Endless options, endless questions, endless confusion. But there is a whiskey out there that makes selecting it simple. An exceptional spirit made with local ingredients and committed to its communities. That's us. That's Sagamore Spirit. Sagamore Spirit has been and always will be more than just whiskey. Our work, your work, is greater than the sum of its parts. Keep the momentum moving. And one more thing, it's whiskey. Have fun with it.
So he is a fan. He's an avid listener.
I know.
So we may have to throw some curveballs at him.
I'll let you go first then.
Oh,
You did it.
I did do it. Well, first of all, before we do that, how can our visionaries get a hold of you? They want to hear your music. They want to support you. They want to follow you on all social media platforms. How does that happen?
Yeah, you guys can, if you have Instagram, follow Extended Play. Also, you can follow my personal page on Instagram, official Chris Jordan. On social media, look up Chris Jordan Music. I have a page, and then Extended Play is also on Facebook as well.
All right, we'll ping pong this, okay?
All right. Proceed.
All right. So, first of all, what's the long-term vision for Extended Play and Chris Jordan? You can combine those two if you want, or do them separately.
Long-term vision for Extended Play is to keep course, to be a top band. We can go up to a 9-piece, but we're mostly a 6-piece. So just a lean and mean that can do concert style, whatever, but just a top band that everybody wants to go see, whether we're at Lava Cantina, Grandscape, or a corporate event.
And what's the website?
Extendedplaymusic.com.
Perfect. All right. So, first question: where would Chris Jordan be without music?
Gosh, Chris Jordan would be without music. Chris Jordan would be doing what I do. I love my job. I work for Sage. Absolutely love the company, love the people there. And I think that I would always have a side hustle, and the side hustle would probably be a life coach.
Love it.
If Chris Jordan had to pick somebody else to take his position in the band, who would it be?
Oh, man.
Now, is this a public figure or someone in the band?
It's up to him.
Okay, so anybody.
Gosh, if there's anybody, I'd have to pick a public figure.
Before you answer, I bet you I'm going to trump your answer. But go ahead.
Gosh, I would say if anyone, it'll be my boy Brandon Coleman. He's well known in the music scene. Awesome keyboardist, pianist, amazing. We're on the social media or whatever, but I would say him or Stevie Wonder.
I was gonna say Prince.
Oh,
You wouldn't pick Prince?
Oh, Prince. Oh, I'm thinking about facing my spot. I don't know if-
Anybody? He said anybody.
Oh, well, Kyle Juke, lead singer, husband of Shannon Juke, works at Multiview, remember? And one of the best vocalists in DFW. I don't think I wouldn't want anyone to replace him, so I would say, I'd have to be a keyboardist or whatever. I like the band intact.
There you go.
I got a badass
Smart man.
what's the dream venue that you'd like to play in?
A dream venue. I won't say dream venue. I say dream audience. Dream audience is 20,000.
Why that? That's a very specific number. Why that number?
It's always been. I've always wanted to perform for 20,000 people. I've always wanted to just feel that energy.
19,999.
Hey, as long as you don't tell me.
Who's counting at that point, right?
Right. Amen.
But just to feel that energy would be awesome.
You know, we talked a lot about mindset, and so as we get ready to truly land the plane, Why is mindset or growth mindset, why is that so important to you?
Because it's the only thing that it's the control panel of my existence, you know? And if it's not functioning well, then I'm just gonna crash into things, right? So it is a control center of how I'm navigating in life. So your mindset is built on by, you know, your belief system, you know, your belief in yourself, your belief in things outside of yourself, everything, and it's really important that you strengthen it as much as you can, because as we talked about earlier, is that life happens, and this is your mindset's a muscle. It's not something you if you don't work it out, if you don't stretch it, if you don't push it, it doesn't get stronger. And then when life happens, what happens? You wreck, you fail, you crash. You know, it takes longer to repair. Right, but if you're continuing to invest into it and grow it, when you do hit those barriers, those walls that you got to break through, is that you might get bruised a little bit, but you'll still get through.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so round table.
Oh no, you done already shut me down now.
All right, so I'll ask the round table. You sure?
Go ahead, proceed.
All right, so it's you, and you're a fan of the show, right? So you know this question, so you should be relatively prepared. But it's you, and there's 5 other people at a round table. Who would you have at your table, dead or alive?
All right, number 1 would be Stevie Wonder. We need some comic relief. Number 2, Barack Obama. I think he's phenomenal person, leader, and just when you hear the things that, you know, you get beyond the politics, you know, you can learn a lot from him. I think that's number 2. Number 3 would be Martin Luther King. Let's see. 4 would be Jesus.
Oh, I can't have it.
Jesus. Okay.
No religious deities at the table. It's too easy.
Okay. No,
First
no
of all, why is Jesus number 4? But
You need to get back in your words.
Oh
son.
yeah, right.
thought you was a believer.
but
So you should make him first in everything.
number 4 would I think that Tony Robbins, and lastly, I would say I've been a big fan of Robert Greene lately. I don't know if you guys know who he is.
Wait.
Well, explain to people
Yeah, who's Robert Greene?
He's the one that wrote the book 48 Laws of Power, all of that, the artist of deduction. and
Well,
all
you're
that.
the first person to say Robert Greene. So when we get somebody brand new to that, to the answer to that question, it's a toast because it's a new answer. Because I mean, you gave us the Baracks and, you know, Jay-Z, LeBron, Trump, like people like that. But you're the first person
Yeah, Robert Greene is
and nearly
good.
200 episodes to say Robert Greene.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
In case you didn't know, the Vision Lab does have a magical time machine. Okay. So what advice would Chris Jordan be giving himself from 5 years ago?
5 years ago, that was 2017. I would have said, leave the company I was at, and probably, and I probably would have just leaped. We said, hey, you know, you're in your 20s, you're still young, you're gonna be fine. Just go all in.
If you never leap, you'll never know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you never leap, you'll never fly.
That too.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. What advice would you be giving? Excuse me. What advice would the older version? So we're going to fast forward the clock 5 years from now. So you're 5 years older. Okay. What advice would you be giving yourself today? So your older version's looking back at you today, and they're giving you advice. What would they say?
They'd say, keep your focus, maintain boundaries, take chances.
It's interesting that you say boundaries, and that was something that I picked up on earlier We didn't get a chance to dive into it. Real quickly, why boundaries? Why are boundaries so important?
Because those are the distractions. Those, if you go outside your boundaries, you get distracted. That's how you detour. That's how you lose your focus. And it's important that you understand that who your influences, all of that shapes your boundaries, and kind of knowing who you are and then maintaining that course and building on that. So, in our 30s and late 30s, mid-late 30s, is that we have a good sense of who we are, and we know the boundaries need to set, and we just got to keep them up and going, because usually when we're impacted or we're blindsided, it's sometimes not the fault of what hit us. It's the fault of us being careless.
That's good. That's good. Hey, Chris, CJ, I want to say thank you on behalf of the Vision Lab podcast for
thank you guys
for jumping into the lab. I mean, I've kind of pondered with this for a while, and you certainly did not disappoint, man. Every interaction, every engagement is powerful. It's engaging. It's electric. So I certainly got a lot out of it. Visionaries, remember, each one of our guests are leaving nuggets of wisdom on the trail of life. Ultimately, my friends, it's up to you to pick them up.
Visionaries, my name is Ryan Mosley. He is Ryan Cuffey. Thank you again to our guest, Chris Jordan of Extended Play. And we will see you guys next week on the last episode of 2022 on the Vision Lab podcast.
Blessings.